Good morning, students. Today we are going to discuss the chapter US Hegemony in the World Politics. We have seen that the end of the Cold War left the US without any serious rival in the world. The era since then has been described as a period of US dominance or a unipolar world. In this chapter, we try to understand the nature, extent, and limits of this dominance. We begin by narrating the story of the rise of the New World Order from the First Gulf War. We then pause to understand the nature of the US domination with the help of the concept of hegemony. After exploring the political, economic, and cultural aspect of the US hegemony, we assess India's policy opinion in dealing with the US. Finally, we turn to see if there are challenges to this hegemony and whether it can be overcome. We can discuss the examples of three kinds of hegemony. After the end of Cold War, there was no serious rival to United States. United States became a hegemony state and only superpower in the world politics. Anita was doing very well in her studies at high school in Baghdad. Her aim was to become a doctor, but she lost her leg in 2003 when a missile slammed into an air raid shelter in which she was hiding. Now her treatment is going on and she is trying to walk with the help of walker. Next is the example of structural power. Vikrant is a young artist and he lives in Durban in South Africa. He is interested in going to art school and later wants to open his own studio. But his father is interested in sending him to USA for doing MBA so that he can look after family business in a better way. Next is the example of soft power. Rocky is a young man who is living in Perth in Australia. His parents are immigrants from Soviet Union. Rocky generally wears blue jeans while going to church, which is not liked by his mother. She wants him to look respectable in church. Rocky tells his mother that jeans are cool and gave sense of freedom. His father reminds his wife how they used to wear jeans when they were living in Leningrad. In fact, these three individuals are affecting in different ways by United States hegemony. Let us first of all understand how US hegemony began and how it operates in the world today. We will follow the popular usage of the word America to refer to the United States of America. The popular usage of the word America refers to the USA. America covers two continents of North and South America, and the USA is the only one of the American countries. Thus, the use of the word America solely for the US is already a sign of the US hegemony that we seek to understand in this chapter. Next, we will discuss the beginning of the New World Order. The sudden collapse of the Soviet Union took everyone by surprise. While one of the two superpowers ceased to exist, the other remained with all its power intact, even enhanced. Thus, it would appear that the US hegemony began in 1991 after Soviet power disappeared from the international scene. This is largely correct, but we need to keep in mind two riders to this. First, as we shall see in this chapter, some aspects of US hegemony did not emerge in 1991, but in fact go back to the end of the Second World War in 1945. Second, the US did not start behaving like a hegemonic power right from 1991. It became clear much later that the world was in fact living in a period of hegemony. Let us therefore look at this process by which US hegemony got established more closely. Now we are going to discuss the US hegemony with the beginning of the New World Order, which is also known as First Gulf War or Operation Desert War. In 1990, Iraq invaded Kuwait without any dispute and very quickly captured a large part of its territory. In spite of criticism by the leaders, Iraq did not admit her action of aggression and did not withdraw its forces from Kuwait. Due to this, Security Council of UNO passed a resolution that Kuwait be liberated by the forces of UNO, and member nations were appealed to send troops for the purpose. Combined forces of about 34 countries participated in the operation. In this, UN forces consisted of 660,000 troops. Out of the total troops, numbering 660,000, more than 75% were American soldiers. Iraq could not face this attack and she was driven out of Kuwait, which took no time. This attack was known as First Gulf War or Operation Desert War. It was also called the Computer War because of the use of highly publicized smart bombs by the US forces. The First Gulf War was also known as the Video Game War because of its widespread television coverage with the viewers around the world watching the destruction of Iraqi forces live on their television screen. Now we are going to discuss the US hegemony under Jefferson Bill Clinton. Despite winning the first Gulf War, George H. W. Bush lost the US presidential elections of 1992 to William Jefferson Bill Clinton of the Democratic Party, who had campaigned on domestic rather than foreign policy issues. Bill Clinton won again in 1996 and thus remained the President of the USA for 8 years. Under Jefferson Bill Clinton, the USA has got a different nature, apart from military one. Bill Clinton was very much interested in promoting domestic affairs of USA. Therefore, he campaigned on domestic rather than foreign affairs. During the Clinton rule, US hegemony was very much confined into its internal affairs rather than fully engaged in the world politics. Besides, the Clinton government tended to focus on soft issues like promotion of democracy, climatic change, and world trade, rather than on hard politics of military power and security. But on some occasions, President Bill Clinton showed his readiness to use military power as well. For example, in the Yugoslavia episode of 1999 and Kenya episode of 1998. The most important military action took place in 1999 in response to Yugoslavian action against the predominantly Albanian population in the province of Kosovo. The air forces of the NATO countries, led by the USA, bombarded targets around Yugoslavia for well over 2 months. Another significant military action during the Bill Clinton years was in response to the bombing of the US embassies in Nairobi, Kenya, Dar es Salaam, and Tanzania in 1998. These bombings attributed to Al-Qaeda, a terrorist organization strongly influenced by extremist Islamic ideas. Within a few days of this bombing, President Clinton ordered Operation Infinite Reach, a series of missile strikes on Al-Qaeda terrorist targets in Sudan and Afghanistan. As a matter of fact, the US did not bother about the UN sanction or provisions of international law in this regard. Now we are going to discuss the term 9/11. On 11 September 2001, 19 hijackers took control of 4 American commercial aircrafts and flew them into important buildings in the USA. The targeted buildings were situated at the following places. In New York, the North and the South Towers of the World Trade Center. In Arlington, the Pentagon Building. In Virginia, the headquarters of the US Defense Department. In Pennsylvania, the Capitol Building of the Congress. In 9/11, nearly 3,000 people were killed. Due to this, President George Bush of the Republican Party gave a quick response to the event of 9/11. He declared a global war on terrorism and ordered attack on all the targets suspected to be behind the attack of 9/11. Main targets were Al-Qaeda centers and Taliban government in Afghanistan. It was believed that attacks on 9/11 were planned and executed by Al-Qaeda chief Osama bin Laden, who was having his base in Afghanistan. So USA launched Operation Enduring Freedom against all those suspected to be against the attack of 9/11 and all those who were suspected to be having relation with Al-Qaeda. The US forces made arrests all over the world, often without the knowledge of the government of the persons being arrested, transported these persons across countries, and detained them in secret prisons. Some of them were brought to Guantanamo Bay, a US naval base in Cuba, where the suspects of 9/11 were kept in prison. The prisoners did not enjoy the protection of international law or the law of their own country or that of the USA. Even the UN representatives were not allowed to meet these prisoners. Now we are going to discuss another example of US hegemony when America attacked on Iraq in 2003. This is also known as Coalition of Willing or Second Gulf War or Operation Iraqi Freedom. On 19 March 2003, the USA launched its invasion on Iraq under the code name Operation Iraqi Freedom. America overthrew the government of Saddam Hussein and a new government of American choice was set up there. Saddam Hussein was captured and detained in prison and was executed in December 2006. Attack on Iraq was in violation of norms of international law. USA believed that Iraq was developing weapons of mass destruction. UN inspectors were sent there for verification, but it did not allow the UN inspectors to visit certain places. USA moved to UNO to sanction attack on Iraq to prevent weapons of mass destruction, but UNO refused to give its approval for the attack. Then USA formed a coalition of the willing for this purpose. About 40 countries formed the coalition. Britain was also the part of this coalition. More than 3,000 US soldiers have lost their lives and more than 50,000 civilians have lost their lives during the war. Attack on Iraq was criticized by almost all the countries of the world, including France and Russia. Now we are going to discuss what does hegemony mean. As we know, politics is about power. Just as individuals want to gain and retain power, groups too want to gain and retain power. In the case of world politics too, countries and groups of countries are engaged in constantly trying to gain and retain power. This power is in the form of military domination, economic power, political clout, and cultural superiority. Therefore, if we wanted to understand world politics, it is necessary that we understand the distribution of power among the countries of the world. For example, during the years of Cold War, 1945 to 1991, power was divided between the two groups of countries, and the USA and the Soviet Union represented the two camps or two centers of power in the international politics during that period. The collapse of Soviet Union left the world with only a single power, the United States of America. Sometimes the international system dominated by a sole superpower or hyperpower is called a unipolar system. Now you can easily understand the meaning of hegemony. Hegemony means world power in the form of military domination, economic power, political clout, and cultural superiority. In 1991, after the collapse of Soviet Union, left the world with only one single power, the United States of America. Thus, after the disintegration of Soviet Union, era of US hegemony started. First example is of US hegemony as a military power or as a hard power. USA has the best and the most powerful strength in the world. Because of military power, She was in a position to defend her own territories against aggression, but was also in a position to ensure her supporters of their protection against any type of aggression or conflict. Her military force was not only stationed in USA, but also spread in all the four corners of the world. The whole American military was divided into five commands: Northern Command, Southern Command, Central Command, European Command, Asian Pacific Command. USA spent a lot of money in maintaining her military strength. During the first Gulf War, when Kuwait had been captured by Iraq, UNO sent her forces to Kuwait. About 660,000 troops had been deployed for this purpose. Out of the whole UN forces, about 75% had been contributed by the USA alone. Second example of hegemony is as structural power. Hegemony of USA is also reflected in her capabilities in providing public goods. USA rules over the sea routes throughout the world. USA possesses the best and the most powerful naval power. Internet and World Wide Web has been introduced by USA to the world, which is another example of public goods and US hegemony. Along with military strength, USA has a very sound and strong economy. It is a universally accepted fact that one who holds the purse holds the affairs. International financial institutions like World Bank and IMF are also under the influence of USA. As we know, the USA is present in all parts of the world, in all sectors of the world economy, and in all areas of technology. The US share of the world economy remains an enormous 28%. There is hardly any field of world economy in which USA does not own one of the three companies. USA has capability of shaping world economy. USA introduced the degree of Master of Business Administration, which is now most popular worldwide, and those who hold this degree are highly paid. This degree is most respected as compared to other degrees. First School of Business Administration, Wharton School, was started in USA in 1881. Now, MBA degree has been introduced in almost all the universities of all the countries. Third example of US hegemony is as soft power in the world. USA has acquired dominant position even in cultural activities of the world. US culture has been influencing other cultures globe-wise. People in most of the developing countries are seen eager to adopt American lifestyle, American dress, American manners, and even American food. McDonald's, to cite an example, Pepsi and Coca-Cola are popular soft drinks everywhere. Young men and women, long after latest design of American jeans. In India, when there were strict restrictions on the import of foreign goods, these goods could easily be brought in black markets which were commonly known for foreign goods, and the people used to be crazy for American companies operating in almost all the big cities like Delhi, Kolkata, Chennai, Mumbai, Chandigarh, Bengaluru, Pune, Gurugram, Noida. McDonald restaurants have become popular very soon. Thus, her cultural dominance also contributes in the hegemonious status of USA in the world politics. Remaining part of this chapter we will discuss in our next video.